This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. No power, no water, and some homes overtaken by mold. Thousands of people in a remote First Nation say despite the difficult living conditions, they're going to tough it out. They have the option to evacuate from Pimicikamak Cree Nation, but instead are choosing to stay behind, fighting for their homes and community. The CBC's Ian Fraze spoke to some who are living through the hardship.
This plumber is getting underneath the problem after a 4-day power outage caused pipes in Pimicikamak Cree Nation to burst.
Mold will get starting to smell.
An estimated 500 of 1,000 homes are damaged. Morris McKay's isn't one of them, so he's able to stay in the community and help. His nephews are stuck using bottled water for cooking and drinking.
Shower, we can't shower or anything.
Cleaning dishes.
Dishes, as you can see, it's very hard to do that.
In late December, the Northern Manitoba First Nation of 7,000 people endured a lengthy power outage. Many were evacuated, but a few thousand people stayed to watch the power get restored and then the pipes to break. Water filled crawl spaces, even front yards. One water treatment plant isn't immune.
Like, good thing we had spare parts and we had to fix them.
At least 200 homes are unlivable.
Once we actually get it fixed, behind walls there's going to be leaks. You're right, black mold. You can't live in black mold. Rapidly grows.
On Wednesday, politicians toured damage estimated to take weeks, maybe months to fix. But the feds wouldn't promise the military, and Chief David Monia says there aren't enough plumbers or technicians.
And everybody's saying, well, let's use local resources. Well, people haven't slept maybe with 2 hours sleep and then try to work again.
One of the reasons why I didn't want to leave.
McKay is grateful to offer a safe place for his family to stay, but admits it's difficult not knowing when things will be fixed.
Sometimes I break down in private to myself. I give it to myself. I don't show it to my family.
While about 4,000 people are still out of the community, Monias is asking his people for patience because they can only return once their house is fixed. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Pimicikamak Cree Nation.
Meantime, people here in Winnipeg are showing their support for the First Nation. A round dance took over Memorial Park late this afternoon and in front of the legislature. Evacuees, leaders and allies gathered in solidarity for Pimicikamak. People were encouraged to bring signs, drums and their voices to call for accountability and change. Those who have family there, like Hunter Martins, say the situation is dire.
My family is freezing up in Cross Lake. They have no working toilets, no water, no warm heat. The walls are so thin that there's no proper installation for warm winters. The outlets are frozen, the bathtubs are frozen.
Officials announced late this afternoon that more help is on the way. The First Nation says additional heaters are expected to arrive Monday, and 30 more tradespeople are set to follow suit. Manitoba's opposition leader is taking steps to stop the opening of a proposed supervised consumption site on Henry Avenue. Abhi Khan wants Health Canada to reject an application from the province to operate an urgent public health needs site in the area. The CBC's Alana Cole has the details.
Just steps from where Manitoba's government wants to put a supervised consumption site, opposition leader Abhi Khan says he's doing what he can to stop that from happening. A letter addressed to Health Canada outlines why.
These letters to Health Canada do a very effective and clear job of dismantling the government's case to force the drug injection site.
A letter signed by Khan, shared with media, says in part they're standing with residents and business owners with concerns about the site. It says there's a lack of data on the number of overdoses in the neighborhood, and there's not enough information on operational details like staffing and budgets.
For all the reasons I've listed and many more, Health Canada must reject the proposed Henry location for the drug injection site proposed by this NDP government.
Standing with Con on Thursday, others who oppose the site here, including Winnipeg Inner City Missions Executive Director Beverly Burkhardt. She worries about the impact the site will have on a nearby centre offering youth programming.
We've got principals who are saying we have concerns about our kids. We have concerns from parents being voiced. So all of a sudden, children who live in the inner city have opportunities that we can provide that they potentially won't even be able to access because of the concerns for their safety and well-being.
Health Canada tells CBC it received an application for an urgent public health needs site, which is temporary but offers similar services to a supervised consumption site from the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Centre last month. And that application is under review. A spokesperson for Addictions Minister Bernadette Smith said they still like to see the site open this month. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A vacant building in the city's industrial area is now set to be demolished after it was gutted by a fire early this morning. The call came in around 3:30 after officers driving by spotted smoke. The building, a warehouse at 45 Archibald Street, was vacant, but there were concerns about flammable material inside. Later, the city confirmed it was the building next door that contained the problematic liquid. The city says the property that burned includes several buildings that were damaged by fires in recent years. An emergency demolition is being arranged due to the damage caused by the fire. Well, it's a staple on Manitoba liquor store shelves, but just to the east of us, Ontario Premier Doug Ford says he's committed to yanking Crown Royal off theirs. The iconic rye is made on the shores of Lake Winnipeg, but those who serve that area say the Ontario politician is unlikely to follow through on his threat. The CBC's Matt Humphrey explains.
Are you going to follow through on your threat to remove Crown Royal?
Oh, 100%. I can't wait.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford is doubling down on his threat of taking Crown Royal off liquor store shelves. The rye is made in Gimli using Manitoba ingredients. But in September, when multinational parent company Diageo said it was closing its Ontario bottling facility and moving to the U.S., Ford dumped out a bottle in anger over the loss of 200 jobs. The Member of Parliament for the area, James Bazan, says Ford doesn't entirely understand the situation.
I was disappointed. It shows that Premier Ford doesn't have all facts in front of him. All of the stuff that's sold here in Canada and sold around the world will continue to be bottled in Canada.
Bazan says rather than trying to attack Manitoba over a Diageo decision, Canadian politicians should be working together to make new jobs.
We haven't seen anything from the Liberals on actually bringing forward legislation to remove interprovincial trade barriers. This is another part that Mark Carney hasn't gotten anything done on.
The mayor of the RM of Gimli, meanwhile, has little concern about Diageo closing down shop. In a statement to CBC News, Kevin Chudd says Diageo's commitment to Canadian operations, particularly here in Gimli, remains strong. Their investment in our region continues to support local employment, partnerships, and economic growth. Gimli area MLA Derek Johnson says attacking Manitobans isn't a solution.
There's lots of other ways to take action. There's lots of other Diageo products out there that we could focus on. Maybe, we could focus on it as a country and be united that way rather than dividing with something that's actually made right here in Canada.
Barry Prentice, who teaches supply chain management at the University of Manitoba, thinks Ford is bluffing.
Because you're drawing attention to the fact that, the policy you're pursuing isn't very logical, and it's hurting consumers in Canada as well as producers in Canada.
In fact, Prentice predicts Crown Royal sales may go up as a result of all this, after all the free advertising. Matt Humphrey, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, Riley Lachuk in now. And Riley, as much as those temperatures have been really nice down here in the south, those roads really slippery this morning and throughout the day.
Yeah, you're right, Brittany. A little bit of freezing rain overnight. Temperatures close to freezing. This is a look at our temperatures as of 6 a.m. this morning. -2 in Winnipeg, closer to -8 on the western side of the province as we saw some cooler air coming in behind this. And a little bit of sunshine. We got some melting, but temperatures falling throughout the afternoon. By 4 o'clock down to -8. -8 in Winnipeg. Still hanging around the freezing mark into northwestern Ontario, though, through the afternoon hours, and -10 in Thompson through the afternoon. So some of that freeze thaw, just keep in mind that we could be looking at some slick sidewalks or some slick roadways as we get into the evening hours. Take it from the person who fell a few years ago and broke their ankle. So just take it easy if you're out and about through the evening. Clear skies tonight. In the south, a bit of cloud cover starting to push into the north. Maybe a few flurries out of some of that as we get into the evening. But temperatures really tank as we get into the overnight hours tonight. Still above seasonal, -16 in Winnipeg. Partly cloudy skies through the night tonight, getting up to -14 by the morning. We'll start to get some cloud building back in. And then as we get later Friday, overnight into Saturday, a good chance that we'll see at least a few flurries in Winnipeg, more like periods of light snow to the west and into parts of the Interlake. -8 tomorrow afternoon. Brittany, we'll talk a bit about that snow when I come back.
All right, keeping an eye on that. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Seeking justice with a rise in hate-related incidents. Does Manitoba have enough people power to prosecute? More on that ahead. Lawyers are asking for a former Manitoba hockey coach who sexually exploited a teenage player to be sentenced to 6 years in prison. Madison Billick pleaded guilty to sexual assault and luring in 2024. CBC's Caitlin Gowerluck was in court.
Prosecutors say the case was about choices former hockey coach Madison Billick made to groom and sexually exploit a teenage player on her team. Now, lawyers in her case are jointly recommending she go to prison for 6 years to answer for those choices. Billick, now 31, was between 24 and 26 years old at the time of the offenses. She pleaded guilty in 2024. The player, who can't be identified because of a publication ban, was 15 and 16 at the time. Court heard it started with Billick taking the players skating and to hockey practice, but later involved late-night calls, explicit photos, and sexual acts. The abuse came to light in 2023 after the player posted a video online saying, "I was 15 and she was my 25-year-old coach. I felt trapped in the relationship for over a year." In a victim impact statement read in court Thursday, the player described the severe emotional impact what happened had on her, saying, "I am afraid of large public spaces for fear of seeing her. I feel anxious when I see somebody who resembles her." Billick's lawyer said his client feels great remorse and never meant to hurt the player. He said the situation morphed from initially altruistic wishes into something that unfortunately became criminal. When given a chance to speak in court, Billick apologized to the player for the harm she caused and to everyone else affected by what she did, telling the judge, "I'm just going to keep trying to improve myself every day and make amends however I can." Billick is no longer coaching and remains out on bail with conditions. She was in court Thursday with her family and will be back at a later date to be sentenced. Caitlin Gowerluck, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba's Justice Minister says Crown attorneys have the resources they need to prosecute hate crimes. It comes amid a wave of hate-related vandalism in the city that has some raising concerns about justice. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
A mosque, a school, a Middle Eastern cafe, and a synagogue. These are 4 places in Winnipeg that have been hit in the past week with hate-related vandalism. Ontario-based activist Bernie Farber is saddened but not shocked.
The fact of the matter is that anti-Semitism, as well as other forms of racism, including Islamophobia and what have you, are not just on the rise, but they are running rampant.
Farber supports Manitoba Justice Minister Matt Wieb's commitment a year ago to appoint a special Crown attorney to focus on prosecuting these crimes.
Charges are needed. There has to be accountability. And without accountability, people feel that they have free rein.
Wiebe says a working group of 10 to 12 prosecutors are tasked with handling these cases, but it's in addition to their duties dealing with other offenses. The minister says a director within the Manitoba Prosecution Service was designated to lead the team, and he says that fulfills his promise to appoint a special prosecutor.
And I think that just gives, a specific confidence maybe for our crowns to know that government is, making sure that there's the resources and the attention to these issues because we know it's such a concern in the community.
These cases can be complicated, according to an expert in law, with police and prosecutors having to prove the identity of perpetrators, and for hate-related offenses, a motive. University of Manitoba Assistant Professor Kenneth Grad says having a prosecutor who focuses solely on this would be beneficial.
It could help prosecutions, given that certainly I do think there are more of these charges being laid and more prosecutions potentially that will go forward.
For their part, Winnipeg police say they have a hate crimes coordinator and a special events unit that works to keep people safe during protests, rallies, and large gatherings. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2 more people have been arrested in connection to a major drug trafficking bust in a northern Manitoba First Nation. Project Dairy was launched last June by RCMP. The investigation is focused on Bunabanabe Cree Nation. This morning, police say a 22-year-old woman and a 37-year-old man, both from Bunabanabe, now face drug-related charges. In total, RCMP say 27 people have been charged so far, and further arrests are expected. The health region covering most of northern Manitoba is looking for a new leader. The Northern Health Region CEO says he's stepping down from the job. No firm date or reason for the departure has been announced. Raj Sudha has been in the position since March 2023. And while the region didn't see any major reductions in service or facility closures with him at the helm, it did see its largest facility, Thompson General Hospital, officially grey-listed by the Manitoba Nurses Union just last month. Riley's back in now. And Riley, I know so many people that have been getting outside, enjoying this above seasonal temperatures, getting the doggos out, the pups out for a walk, maybe getting a little skate in. Cooling off a little bit, though, this evening.
Returning closer to seasonal, Brittany. Still staying above seasonal, but we're in this trend where we're going up and down over the next several days, even in the next week or so. And it's a trend that's going to continue with this freeze thaw happening. But there is a bit of weather in between this. So I'm going to start sort of Cole's notes here on what we've got coming over the next 3 days. So first off, a bit of snow coming to southern Manitoba. Another quick clipper, very unorganized, pushes through as we get Friday into Saturday across southern Manitoba. Low accumulation, again, a quick dusting, but the possibility is there for even up to 4 centimeters of snow in parts of the Inner Lake or into western parts of the province. But we'll combine that with a bit of wind as we get Friday into Saturday. Could see some gusts up to 40 kilometers an hour possible, so that could mean some locally reduced visibility or some localized blowing snow as we get Friday night into Saturday, so be mindful of that. And for northern Manitoba, it's more of a weekend event, and next second low pushes through as we get through the weekend. Pretty general 2 to 5 centimeters as we get through the later part of Saturday into the morning hours on Sunday, west to east across northern Manitoba. So that's just sort of high level what we're looking at here over the next few days. Right now, though, high pressure has really cleared us out once again today. Mostly sunny skies across much of the province, but as we get into the morning, as this next low starts to approach the province, we do see clouds starting to build in. And then as we get later into the day tomorrow through the afternoon hours, we are looking at periods of light snow through western parts of the province, through the parkland into southwestern Manitoba. This reaches the Red River Valley. Again, quite unorganized as we get into the evening hours into Friday overnight into Saturday. So that's just a quick push of snow that we've got coming. We get a bit of clearing as we get into Sunday morning, and then this next low starts to push in as we get into the day on Sunday into northern Manitoba. Again, another quick mover, but the potential there for 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. So this is what it's looking like at the moment, precipitation-wise. I think for the south, some of these numbers are a little bit on the high side, but it just gives you a sense that we're looking at a pretty broad dusting as we get through the next 24 hours or so. And as of Saturday evening, that next wave coming into northern Manitoba, a couple centimeters or so as we get into the morning hours on Sunday. The story, though, in southern Manitoba will be the winds as we get late Friday into Saturday, looking at those gusts again. The potential for some gusts even through parts of the parkland into south central parts of the province, up to 50 possible. So where we do see some of that snow, that could lead to some reduced visibility on highways as we get into the weekend. So take that into consideration. Not widespread by any means, but certainly could lead to some blowing snow. By the afternoon, temperatures around -10 in the south, -8 in Winnipeg tomorrow afternoon, -10 into Saturday, Brittany, and then we rebound all the way up close to the freezing mark by the time we get to early next week.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
And here's a look at Osborne Village as we head to break. We have more ahead right after this. Officials in Minnesota say they've been blocked from taking part in the federal investigation into the fatal shooting of a woman in Minneapolis. The 37-year-old was shot and killed by an ICE agent Wednesday. Minnesota's governor is questioning an investigation that doesn't include his state.
It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome. And I say that only because people in positions of power have already passed judgment.
Protests have erupted in the aftermath of the shooting, with angry demonstrators facing off against law enforcement officers. Video appears to show the woman driving away from officers when an agent opens fire. But federal officials are defending the shooting as an act of self-defense by the agent. They're calling him experienced and say he had been dragged by a vehicle in an operation earlier this year. People are also coming together to remember the victim, Jan.8, a mother of 3 who lived near the site of the shooting. Katie Nicholson has the latest from Minneapolis.
So this is East 34th in Portland. This is this stretch of street where yesterday Jan.8 was shot by an ICE agent, and it's really something of a sort of a makeshift and growing memorial. Hundreds of people have come here over the last 24 hours to pay respects. All day I've seen people come here and pray, hold one another, cry, and there are also people holding signs. A number of people here really holding on to sort of protest signs, and others. I want to introduce you actually to Mark McKeevy here, who's holding a sign that says simply, "She was good." Mark, tell me about why it is you wanted this sign.
Well, I'll first start that this was not my idea. I saw this in a photo from, I believe, Minnesota Public Radio, but when I saw it, I felt it was what exactly needed to be said after our president and his Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, characterized this woman falsely as a domestic terrorist.
We've heard Governor Walz again and again sort of urge calm here in the streets. This is an area that is just blocks away from where George Floyd was murdered back in 2020. Those memories very fresh here. I talked to a number of people here in the neighborhood who still remember those days, the tensions, and a lot of healing has had to happen since then. Interesting thing about this neighborhood is very interesting texture. Lots of artists, lots of immigrants. You'll see if we just turn around here, there's a bunch of people with fires going. There's been food coming in. Somali tea has just been brought in. You're seeing people from sort of all different aspects of the city coming together here. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Minneapolis.
Donald Trump has withdrawn his country from dozens of international organizations, including a treaty that underpins all international efforts to combat global warming. Jan.8 has more on that development and what it says about Trump's approach to international relations.
The reaction to the latest Trump administration moves has already been swift. The Union of Concerned Scientists calling it a new low. The head of the UN Climate Initiative saying that it is effectively an own goal that will have a challenging effect on the U.S. economy and its people. 66 organizations, treaties, alliances around the world that the U.S. is pulling out of. And the reason we mention climate change is because one of the most significant that he is pulling out of is an agreement reached in 1992, 198 countries, that eventually led to the establishment of the Paris Accords. Now, Trump has already pulled out of those accords, but still, that means going forward that other countries could use this as an excuse to pull out and to not do their bit to combat climate change around the world. From the administration's point of view, quoting from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, he saying this in reaction to what they have done. The Trump administration has found these institutions to be redundant in their scope, mismanaged, unnecessary, wasteful, poorly run, a threat to our nation's sovereignty, freedoms, and general prosperity. Still, when you take that and add in the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, the seizure of oil tankers around the world, and the threats made to Greenland's sovereignty, it becomes clear that the Trump administration, when it comes to international affairs, is going to go their own way. John Northcott, CBC News, Toronto.
Less than 1 week after Trump authorized a military offensive that captured Venezuela's leader, the U.S. Senate has advanced a bipartisan resolution limiting the president's power to authorize further military force against that country. Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer lashed out at the Trump administration for authorizing the recent incursion.
How can the American people watch this and not just groan and grimace and ache and fear?
5 Republicans joined Democrats in supporting the resolution, which passed by a vote of 52 to 47. The measure still must get through the House, where Republicans hold a majority. Protests in Iran have spread nationwide, with demonstrators frustrated over the skyrocketing cost of living there. Pressure on the regime is mounting, and leaders are casting a wary eye at recent comments from the United States. Margaret Evans explains.
Pain and frustration over Iran's failing economy, spilling out onto city streets for nearly 2 weeks now and spreading. They began in Tehran's Grand Bazaar, shop owners crippled by a devalued currency. Security forces inevitably trying to shut protests down. Dozens have been killed so far. They're nowhere near the scale of the protests back in 2022, but potentially pose an even greater risk to Iran's ruling clerics, say analysts, as Washington's grip on Venezuela tightens.
The big lesson out of the fall of the Venezuelan regime is not Colombia, is not Greenland, is Iran. And the Iranians know that Iran is the next target.
U.S. President Donald Trump has delivered warnings to Tehran about the protests.
If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard.
That could embolden protesters, even if many don't believe Trump has their best interests at heart. Iran has endured decades of U.S.-led sanctions aimed at curbing its nuclear program. And more saber-rattling from Israel, which launched 12 days of what it called preemptive strikes against Iran with U.S. help last year, has piled more pressure on the regime.
They're under distinct political pressure from within. The economic policy changes that they need to make are not really possible without coming to an accommodation with the U.S. administration.
Iranian officials, including the foreign minister, are stepping very carefully. We do not seek war, he's saying, but we're prepared for it. We're also prepared for negotiations. Iran's negotiating position is clearly even weaker than it was a year ago. Less clear how that will impact an increasingly cornered regime, one that has resisted calls for its demise in the past through brutal repression. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
A new report says the right to protest is under threat in a place that might surprise you. Human Rights Watch says recent changes to legislation have significantly restricted the right to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. The country in question? The United Kingdom. The CBC's Crystal Gamansing reports from London.
Human Rights Watch says here in the UK, the fabric of democracy is fraying, that laws currently on the books are resulting in dissenting voices being significantly constrained when it comes to their rights to take to the streets and peacefully protest. The director for Human Rights Watch said that peaceful protesters are given conflicting information, often by police, that people can be searched and detained arbitrarily, even arrested for things such as having tape, placards, as well as covering their faces. The report released today, called Silencing the Streets, cites several demonstrations in England that were viewed as problematic. Not My King demonstration at the coronation of King Charles was just one of those where anti-monarchy demonstrators were taken into custody while unloading signs even before the demonstration took place. And more recently, the detention of demonstrators sitting holding signs saying Palestinian action. That group has been prescribed as a terrorist organization here, so even holding a sign could be seen as support, resulting in possible charges under counterterrorism laws. Yasmin Ahmed says there are many different examples, all leading to a chilling effect, ones that even have her concerned about attending protests alone or with her daughter.
My daughter, who's 11, who is very much concerned about the climate crisis, I will think twice now about taking her to a protest because of the fact now that we have no legal certainty about what we can and can't do in that protest. We have no legal certainty, and certainly I would be worried about the extent to which any activities that we were doing within the context of that peaceful process may be deemed as violating the criminal law.
Human Rights Watch is calling for a number of changes to be made. They have a list of recommendations, including changes to current legislation, saying amendments are needed to ensure that rights are protected and that there isn't a further slide and chilling effect of peaceful demonstrations. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has in the past said that he supports individuals' rights to peacefully demonstrate. However, there has been no official comment to today's Human Rights Watch report. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, London.
A tight squeeze on a WestJet flight. Why one family's travel experience is sparking conversations about passenger legroom on Canadian Airlines. More on that straight ahead. Stay with us. A growing number of people are losing weight by taking GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. But what happens to those who stop taking the medication? Jennifer LaGrassa answers that question.
Ozempic helped me lose 160 pounds.
More people are slimming down from weight loss drugs.
It makes such a difference.
But research suggests about half of those taking GLP-1s will quit within 1 year.
Sometimes they can't stay on medicine because they've lost coverage or access to the medication, or they have side effects.
The whole period was a struggle.
Heather White stopped taking Ozempic after about 7 months because of nausea and digestive issues.
It just wasn't good enough for me to continue on with it.
So what happens when you stop? New research in the British Medical Journal compared studies of people who stopped taking weight loss drugs with those who quit diet and exercise programs and were not on a GLP-1. These people were either overweight or obese.
What we found particularly shocking was just how fast weight was regained after people stopped taking medication.
On average, people who got off the meds regained just under a pound per month and were projected to return to their original weight within nearly 2 years. Certain health benefits like lower cholesterol and blood pressure levels were also reversed. People who stopped the lifestyle programs still regained weight, just at a slower rate.
These weight loss medications are incredibly effective.
If you're actually living with obesity and this works for you, you should stay on it long term, just like any other chronic medical condition.
But the vast majority of the studies used in this research didn't track people for longer than 1 year. As for those like White, now trying a different weight loss drug,
I want this to work. I do.
Experts say more research is needed. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Toronto.
WestJet has introduced a new interior to some of its planes. Reconfigured is the word the airline is using. But passengers say the design in the layout is missing something important, namely legroom. The CBC's Julia Wong reports.
Dad, could you just straighten out your legs there?
Impossible.
This video of a tight squeeze for an Alberta family on a recent WestJet flight has gone viral, showcasing passenger legroom or a lack of it.
You have to pay for the other leg.
Amanda Schmidt shot the video of her 6-foot, 3-inch tall father cramped into his non-reclining seat.
If they're selling a seat for a human, it should fit a human. It's inhumane, basically, to make people travel like this.
In an email, WestJet said the plane in the video is one of our newly reconfigured aircraft. Later responding on X, we understand that the reconfigured seating isn't ideal for everyone, and adding it's listening closely to feedback. Last month, WestJet paused the plan to install non-reclining seats on more planes after receiving negative feedback. Passengers have concerns.
How can you sit like that for like a big long-haul flight? Like we're flying to the UK, so that would be pretty disastrous.
It's terrible, really. If you want any sort of reasonable travel, you have to pay extra.
One aviation expert says seats with reduced legroom are common in Europe, but less so in Canada, and thinks Ottawa should step in.
There is no oversight, there is no governance, there is no regulation associated with the amount of space that customers are entitled to.
Schmidt's father is also calling for change.
The aviation authority should have some play in kind of standardizing the requirements or the minimum requirements.
CBC News reached out to Transport Canada asking if legroom should be a passenger right. The department did not respond by our deadline. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton. All right, Riley, back in now. And if people need to stretch their legs a little bit, get outside, go for a walk. Really good days ahead. We're jumping back on that weather roller coaster, though, that you've talked a lot about.
Yeah, if you are going out, even if you're taking the pups out, even just for a quick little walk, just be careful because some of that melting that we saw earlier likely going to be freezing up again through the night tonight and into the morning. So just prepare for some icy conditions on sidewalks, on paths in your neighborhood or on the roads as well. So let's take a look at your dog walking forecast. And tonight we have Poppy. And unfortunately, I got this emailed to me from a phone number and there was no name attached. So I'm so sorry. And I couldn't reply to that note that came in. So if Poppy belongs to you, what a cutie. Ready for the season, clearly. You can send your pictures to talkback@cbc.ca. Minus 14 in the morning for Winnipeg. I mean, still above seasonal for this time of the year. Usually our normal daytime high would be minus 13 for this part of January. So that just gives you a sense of where we are in terms of that normal temperature for this time of the year. Minus 8 by the afternoon. And as we get into the evening for the Red River Valley, that's when we start to see some of that precipitation starting to push into the province. This is what missed us. This is a low that developed in Texas heading into the U.S. Midwest right now. And this is going to bring rain to the Great Lakes region, to southern Ontario in particular, but further north into parts of Ontario, expecting either some freezing rain or some snow along with this. And this takes us out into the Thursday night, into Friday time period here. So you can see Thunder Bay kind of on the edge of that, but looking at that system pushing into the Maritimes as we get into the weekend. So some unsettled weather heading to parts of the country east of us. For us tonight, at least, looking at temperatures around minus 15 or so through the overnight hours, minus 18 in Roblin and Swan River. And there is the risk that we do see some fog in eastern parts of the province again tonight. I mean, that risk lower than it was the past couple of nights, but certainly could run into some patchy fog through the night tonight through parts of the Interlake and eastern Manitoba. Otherwise, we're looking at partly cloudy skies, maybe a few flurries through Thompson into Gillam tonight. Fairly scattered in nature if you see anything through the night tonight. Minus 14 in Flin Flon, the Pa, OCN. Norway House looking at minus 12 through the afternoon. Again, maybe a few scattered flurries out of some of this cloud cover, but clouds will feature through the north as we get through the day tomorrow. Temperatures above seasonal for most places in northern Manitoba, minus 22 in Churchill, to Dooley Lake, minus 25. That is on the below seasonal side. And for the south, as we get into the afternoon, you'll see this week low starting to push into the province. Periods of light snow through the afternoon for the western side of the province, although temperatures still hanging around minus 10. And Brittany, that snow does start to push into the Red River Valley and eastern parts of the province, fairly scattered in nature as we get later into the evening tomorrow. Your 7 days coming up.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Venezuela's oil reserves are vast, but they may not result in a straightforward bonanza. The CBC's Johanna Wagstaff explains.
Venezuela and its oil are in the spotlight.
Venezuela is sitting on the world's largest estimated oil reserves.
President Trump is focused on Venezuela's oil.
Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves. So what do we know about Venezuela oil? We know the volume of it under Venezuela rivals Canada's oil sands in scale, comparable to the world's remaining conventional oil combined. But when it comes to how much is recoverable, it's less about politics and more about geology and a little about bacteria. Most of the oil in question sits in the Orinoco oil belt, a massive geological formation running across eastern Venezuela. USGS scientists have long estimated there's roughly 900 to 1,400 billion barrels of oil available here. But only this much is estimated to be technically recoverable using existing technology. Why? Because not all oil behaves the same way. And to understand what makes Venezuela's oil unique, we need to understand that oil is made up of hydrocarbons, molecules that come in all sorts of sizes. Some are short, light chains that flow easily, like thin syrup or water. Others are long, heavy chains that barely move at all. Think peanut butter. And Venezuela's oil is about as extreme as it gets. So why is Venezuela's oil so heavy? In order for oil to form, you need organic rich seabeds that are then buried, heated, and trapped. Sometimes this happens near mountains. Venezuela followed that script. During the Cretaceous, its basins filled with marine life, later cooked into oil as nearby mountains folded. What happened next is what makes Venezuela different. Over millions of years, the oil migrated upward into cooler rock. There, microbes moved in, feeding first on the lightest hydrocarbons. What remained were those long, complex molecules, the thicker, denser, stickier stuff. This process, known as biodegradation, transformed much of Venezuela's oil long before humans arrived. The result is this extra heavy crude with extremely high viscosity. In some cases, it barely behaves like a liquid at all. Compare that to other major regions. Saudi light crude often stayed deeper and hotter, protecting it from microbes. US shale oil is locked in tight rock, making it hard for microbes to get in the first place. But Venezuela's oil lingered where microbes could survive. And Canada's oil sands, they are heavy too, forming under not exact but very similar pressures to Venezuela. Heavy oil leads to two big problems. First, it doesn't flow easily. Light oil can rise naturally to the surface, but extra heavy oil has to be coaxed with heat, solvents, or by mixing it with lighter hydrocarbons to make it pumpable. Every one of those steps costs energy. Second, heavy oil is also just harder to refine. It contains more sulfur, more complex molecules. You need specialized refineries to break it down, and only a fraction of the world's refineries are designed for that job. From a climate perspective, oils like Venezuela's are among the most energy intensive to get from the ground to the gas tank. Despite the turbulence surrounding Venezuela's oil sector, one thing is clear. Global dependence on oil and the consequences tied to it are still shaping decisions in real time.
Can you taste the music? We'll explain straight ahead. Staff at London Zoo are busy taking stock of all their creatures, great and small.
This year is a special year because it's our bicentenary year. So at London Zoo, we've been counting animals for 200 years.
Zookeepers have to tally up more than 8,000 animals in their care, from lions, penguins, and capybara to giant millipedes. A dip in outdoor temperatures of -4 degrees meant coaxing some residents out of their heated shelters. But when it comes to counting fish or coral inside a water tank, staying warm or dry just isn't an option.
Add that to the list of interesting jobs to maybe try one day. Okay, here's a look at your 7-day forecast. And again, we're looking at a few flurries across the south as we get through the later part of tomorrow into the early morning Saturday, tapering off in eastern parts of the province. Then we're back into some clearing, but a little bit of a windy weekend ahead, -6 into Sunday. And then look at this, temperatures up into close to freezing by Monday, Tuesday. Slim chance of flurries by the middle of the week, and then our next more substantial system coming our way as we get into Thursday. All right, I have a weather picture for you tonight. This one taken on the shores of Lake Winnipeg at Balsam Harbor. Dwayne taking this shot today in the sun, and hopefully it wasn't too windy out there on the ice if you're out ice fishing. You can send your pics to talkback at cbc.ca. So through technology, there are many ways, Brittany, to experience music. Maybe you listen on your phone, or you're rediscovering vinyl, or maybe you just love going to a concert.
Well, a new edible innovation shown off at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas is letting people not just hear music, but taste it. It's our Daily Lift. Okay, get this. The Lollipop Star is a candy that plays music. Users cover their ears while licking the candy to experience the song. The novelty generated quite a bit of buzz at this year's convention, impressing those who got a chance to test it.
I'm like, no way, no. I'm like, it is music. So I can see my great nephews and nieces actually getting involved in something like this. And it was like, here I am, 66 years old, and enjoying something like this. It's amazing, bro. It's amazing.
So the music is transmitted from the lollipop to the listener using bone conduction technology. The candy is priced at $9 and will go on sale after this ends. Demand is already high, with more than 1 million people on an online wait list.
I just love how excited he is about it.
I know. I'm cheap, but I would spend $9 on that.
All right, hop on the wait list.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get one for each of us and test it out. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.